So, und da disqualifiziert sich dein Idol Fußwegfahrern in Sachen Kinderschutz. Und da könnte ich jetzt nicht reingehen, nicht reingraben des Grauens und dich auch weghaben, sinnbildlich und tatsächlich, lyrisch. Quatsch mich einfach nicht vor. Ihr seid keine Kinderschützer. Ihr seid Leute, die, ihr seid diese Hip-Hopper, die sich an Kinder ranmachen. Und das weiß ich. Und deswegen kacken und kotzen die auch ab. Weil es Leute gibt, weil es Männer gibt, und es sind tatsächlich jeder Dritte ist so. Wenn wir jetzt von BWL reden, ne, also wenn wir von Statistiken reden, ist jeder Dritte so. Und es sind Väter, die sind so. Deswegen kommen wir nicht von wegen, die genau, und das ist das Ding. Du redest Hip-Hop. Und die Leute, die Pädophile sind, nennen sich Hip-Hop. Machen das im Namen, sind pädophil im Namen Hip-Hop. Ficken minderjährige Groupies, holen sie in ihre Studios, machen sie dumm an, ich weiß es ja. Schicken sie auf den Strich wie sein Bruder. Ich zitiere Dinge, die er zu mir gesagt hat. Die Sache ist, ich kann reden, die können nicht reden. Und die sind auch nicht bereit, tatsächlich dieses Game so zu spielen, wie es sich gehört. It's over, the game is over. Das ist die Sache. Deswegen kommt mir nicht mit Hip-Hop und das ist euch und ihr könnt machen, nee, so läuft es. So läuft es. Er redet von seiner psychischen Gesundheit. Das sind Leute, die psychisch kaputt sind. Ich mache nicht lustig über die, aber es reicht auch nicht, deiner Meinung zu sein. Und das ist genau das Thema, wie mit Totschlagargumenten. Leute zu Rufmorden. Ja? Also du nennst Leute so, wie du willst einfach. Weil ihr gefühlt mehr seid. Weil ich jetzt nicht sage, ich bin, zu mir gehören 5.000 Leute oder 10.000 oder 1 Million oder 30 Millionen oder 100 Milliarden. Weil ich das nicht öffentlich mache, denkt ihr, weil ihr jetzt sagt, jetzt mal, wenn wir und ihr, du und ich reden, ja?
Scheiße.
Reißt du dich ein?
Ich habe die Schriftgröße verändert.
Ich würde jetzt sagen, du bist so jemand, der sagt,
Flash,
ja,
was ist das letzte Wort?
Und alle sagen, dass du so bist. Dann muss es so sein. Das hat die Welt nicht verändert. Einzelne Menschen haben die Welt verändert. Und Hip-Hop ist entstanden durch diese ist entstanden durch
Bear Flash.
Und Hip-Hop sind nicht die 5 Säulen des Hip-Hops. Graffiti, DJing, Beatboxing.
Sondern?
Was? Graffiti, Beatboxing.
Irgendwas noch, irgendwas anderes.
Und,
das gibt's doch nicht!
Das Tanzen. Das ist es nicht. Und Hip-Hop kommt auch nicht aus Afrika. Und ich distanziere mich von Afrika am Bambata, denn der war ein Pädophiler.
Das gibt's doch nicht. Das muss doch irgendwo sein.
Wo mir diese ganze Scheiße egal ist. Mir ist für mich ist das wichtigste Thema, als erwachsener Mann ist das wichtigste Thema für mich Kinderschutz. Und da gibt es für mich kein Verhandeln. Das hat keine Verhandlungsbasis.
Egal, ich glaube, ich kann einfach...
Ist, Kinder zu verarschen, Kindern zu sagen, dass es ihr Hip-Hop ist für Kinder, ist es nicht. Hip-Hop ist ein Erwachsenensport, in dem Kinder zugelassen sind, weil Erwachsene da sind, ihnen das richtig zu vermitteln. So. Scheiß auf Breakdance. Und das ist halt die Sache, so wie im Großen, so im Kleinen. Du kannst es nicht, guck mal, ich lasse mir, du kackst jetzt rein. Es ist scheißegal, was du da sagst. Oder du sagst nicht nur was du da schreibst, das interessiert keinen. Es hat keinen Wert. weil du möchtest dagegen sein. Und dir geht es um Anti-Alles sein. Du bist gegen alles. Aber es gibt halt Leute wie mich, und da kann ich nur für mich reden, ich bin nicht gegen das. Ich bin aber ganz klar gegen rituellen Kindesmissbrauch und Kindesmissbrauch.
Okay, gut. Ich auch. She knew that the note would tell her all, and for a moment her courage failed her. She dared not read it. Her averted eyes sought instead the cupboard in the lower wainscot. Da waren wir leider schon. She asked herself, trembling, was he what this book seemed to indicate? At last she nerved herself to learn. Ja, da waren wir schon. Has 6,000 guineas. Yes, yes, yes. Josephine sat a while in a chair and shivered, her face white, her head burning. The words were so clear that the initials notwithstanding, it was not possible to misinterpret them. Ja, da waren wir schon. They cut her as the lash here. The bare flesh. It was for this thing that she had laid aside her maiden pride, had risked her good name, had scorned her nearest, had thrown away all in life that was worth keeping. It was for this creature, this thing, in the shape of a man, that she had overleapt the bounds, had left her home, had risked the perils of the streets, and the greater perils of his company. For this, but she had not words adequate to the loathing of her soul. Outraged womanhood, wounded pride, condemned affection, which she had fancied love, seared her very soul. She could have seen him killed, she could have killed him with her own hand, or she thought she could. So completely in a moment was her liking changed to hatred. So completely destroyed on the instant was the trust she had placed in him. And S point M point is an easy miss and swallows all, a perfect goose. Those words cut more deeply than all into her vanity. She winced, nay, she writhed under them. Geil geschrieben, Digga, ich schwöre. Zusammenkrümmen. Nor was that all. They had a clever, dreadful smartness that told her they were no mere memorandum, but had served in a letter, and tickled at once a man's conceit and a woman's ears. Her own ears burned at the thought, S&M is a perfect goose. She would never recover it. She would never regain her self-respect. The last embers had grown grey behind the bars. The last ash had fallen from the grate while she sat. The room was silent, save for her breathing, that now came in quick spasms as she thought of the false lover, and now was slow and deep as she sat sunk in a shamed reverie. On a sudden, the cooling fireplace cracked. The sound roused her. She sprang up and gazed about her in affright, remembering that she had no longer any business there, nay, that in no room in the world had she less business. In the terror of the moment, she flew to the door. She must go, but whither? More than ever, now that she recognized her folly, she shrank from her sister's scornful eyes, from Mr. Northey's disapproving stare, from the grins of the servants, the witticisms of her friends. The part she had played, seen as she now saw it, would make her the laughing stock of the whole town. It was the silliest, the most romantic. A schoolgirl would cry fie on it. Fie. Pfui. Fie. Josephine's cheek burned at the thought of facing a single person who had ever known her. Much more at the thought of meeting her sister or Mrs. Martha, or the laced bumpkins past whom she had flitted in that ill-omened hour. She could not go back to Arlington Street. But then whither could she go? Whither indeed? It was 9 o'clock, night had fallen. At such an hour the streets were unsafe for a woman without escort, much more for a girl of gentility. Drunken roisterers on their way from tavern to tavern, ripe for any frolic, formed a peril worse than footpads. And she had neither chair nor link boys, servants nor coach, without one or other of which she had never passed through the streets in her life. Yet she could not stay where she was. Rather would she lie without covering in the wildest corner of the adjacent park, or on the lonely edge of Rosamond's Pond. The mere thought that she lingered there was enough. She shuddered with loathing, grew hot with rage, and the impulse that had hastened her to the door returning. She hurried out, and was half-way down the stairs when the sound of a man's voice, uplifted in the passage below, brought her up short where she stood. An instant only she heard it clearly. Then the tramp of feet along the passage masked the voice. But she had heard enough. It was Hawksworth's. And her eyes grew wide with terror. She should die of shame if he found her there. If he learned not by hearsay but eye to eye that she had come to her own motion, poor silly dupe of his blandishments, to throw herself into his arms, that were too much, she turned to fly. Her first thought was to take refuge on the upper floor until he had gone into his room and closed the door. 2 bounds carried her to the landing she had left. But here she found an unexpected obstacle in a wicket set at the foot of the upper flight of stairs, one of those wickets that are still to be seen in old houses in the neighborhood of the nursery. Wicket. Türchen, Pforte. By the light that issued from the half-open doorway of the room, Josephine tugged at it furiously, but seeking the latch at the end of the gate, where the hinges were, she lost a precious moment. When she found the fastening, the steps of the man she had fancied she loved, and now she hated, were on the stairs. And the gate would not yield. Pent on the narrow landing with discovery tapping her on the shoulder, she fumbled desperately with the latch. Even in despair, flung her weight against the wicket. It held. In another second, if she persisted, she would be seen. With a moan of anguish, she turned and darted into Hawksworth's room and sprang to the table where the candles stood. Her thought was to blow them out, then to take her chance of passing the man before they were relighted. But as she gained the table and stooped to extinguish them, she heard his step so near the door that she knew the sudden extinction of the light must be seen, and her eyes at the same moment alighting on the high-backed settle, in an instant she was behind it. It was a step she would not have taken had she acted on anything but the blind, unthinking impulse to hide herself. For here retreat was cut off. She was now between her enemy and the inner room. She dared not move, and in a few minutes at most must be discovered. But the thing was done. There was no time to alter it. As her hoop slipped from sight behind the wooden seat, the Irishman entered, and with a laugh flung his hat and cane on the table. A second person appeared to cross the threshold after him, and crouching lower, her heart beating as if it could choke her, Josephine heard the door flung to behind them. There are men who find as much pleasure in the intrigue as in the fruits of the intrigue, who take huge credit for their own finesse and others' folly, and find a chief part of their good in watching as from a raised seat the movements of their dupes. Betrogene, Tölpel. Astray in a maze of their planting. The more ingenious the machination they have contrived, the nicer the calculations and the more narrow the point on which success turns, the sweeter is the sop of their vanity. To receive Lisette and Fifine in the same apartment within the hour, to divide the rebel and the minister by a door, to turn the scruple of one person to the hurt of another, and know both to be ignorant. These are feats on which they hug themselves as fondly as on the substantial rewards which crown their maneuvers. Manoeuvreurs. Hawkesworth was of this class. And it was with feelings such as these that he saw his nicely jointed plans revolving to the end he desired. To mould the fate of Tom Maitland at Cambridge and of Josephine in town, and both to his own profit, fulfilled his sense of power. To time the weddings as nearly as possible, to match the one at noon and to marry the other at night, gratified his vanity at the same time that it tickled his humor. But the more delicate the machinery, the smaller is the atom, and the slighter the jar that suffices to throw all out of gear. For a time, Oriana's absence at the moment when every instant was a prize, and the interference of Tom's friends was hourly possible, threatened to ruin it all. It was in the enjoyment of the relief which the news of her arrival afforded that he returned to his lodging this evening. He was in his most rollicking humor and overflowed with spirits, Tom's innocence and his own sagacity providing him with ever fresh and more lively cause for merriment. Nor was the lad's presence any check on his mood. Hawkesworth's joviality, darkling and satirically as it was, passed with Tom for lightness of heart. What he did not understand, he sat down for Irish and dubbed his companion the Prince of Good Fellows. As they climbed the stairs, he was trying with after-supper effusiveness to impress this on his host. "I swear you are the best friend man ever had," he cried, his voice full of gratitude. "I vow you are." Hawkesworth laughed. As he threw... Oder... as he threw his hat and cane on the table, and proceeded to take off his sword, that he might be more at ease. His laughter was a little louder than the other's statement seemed to justify. Wichtig, habe ich richtig, ja. Ungefähr so wahrscheinlich. But Tom was in no critical mood, and Hawkesworth's easy answer, "You'll say so when you know all, my lad," satisfied the boy. "I do say it," he repeated earnestly, as he threw himself on the settle and, taking the poker, stirred the embers to see if a spark survived. "I do say it." Hoffentlich bleibt es jetzt heterosexuell. "And I say, well you may," Hawkesworth retorted with a sneer from which he could not refrain. "What do you think, dear lad, would have happened if I'd tried for the prize myself?" he continued. "If I'd struck in for your pretty bit of red and white on my own account. Do you remember Trumpington? Do you remember? And our first meeting? I would the start of you then. I had the start of you then, though you are going to be her husband." 20 minutes start, Tom answered. Hawkesworth averted his face to hide a grin. 20 minutes, he said. Lord, so it was, 20 minutes. The boy reddened. "Why do you laugh?" he asked. "Why? Why?" "Because 20 minutes is a long time sometimes," Hawkesworth answered. But there, be easy, lad, he continued, seeing that he was going too far. Be easy, no need to be jealous of me, and I'll brew you some punch. There is one thing certain, he continued, producing a squat Dutch bottle and some glasses from a cupboard by the door. You have me to thank for her. There is no doubt about that. It's what I've always said, Tom answered. He was easily appeased. If you'd not asked my help when your chaise broke down at Trumpington, you just picked her up, you remember? I should never have known her. Think of that. Chaise. Einspänner. Was ist das denn? Einspänner. Achso, von der Kutsche irgendein Instrument. Das should never. He continued, his eyes shining with a lover's enthusiasm, and he rose and trod the floor this way and that. Never to have known her, Hawksworth. Whom to know was to love, the Irishman murmured, with thinly veiled irony. Right, right, indeed. And to love was to know, eh? Right, right again. Poor Tom cried, striking the table. For a moment Hawksworth contemplated him with amusement. Then, well, here's to her, he cried, raising his glass. The finest woman in the world. And the best, Tom answered. And the best. The toast is worthy the best of liquor. Hawksworth continued, pushing over the other's glass. But you'll have to drink it cold, for the fire's out. The finest woman in the world and the best, the lad cried. His eyes glowed as he stood up reverently, his glass in his hand. She is that, isn't she, Hawksworth? She's all that. I'll answer for it. The Irishman replied with a stifled laugh. Lord, what fools there were in the world. By this time tomorrow she'll be yours. Think of it, lad. He continued with an ugly-sounding, ugly-meaning laugh, at which one of his listeners shuddered. Schau denn. But Tom in the lover's seventh heaven was not that one. His Oriana, who to others was a handsome woman, bold-eyed and free-tongued, was a goddess to him. He saw her through that glamour of first love that blesses no man twice. He felt no doubt, harbored no suspicion, knew no fear. He gave scarce one thought to her past. He was content to take her for gospel all she told him, and to seek no more. That he should have gained the heart of this queen among women seemed so wonderful, so amazing, that nothing else seemed wonderful at all. At all. You think she'll not fail? He cried, and set down his glass. It's a week since I saw her, and you don't think she'll have changed her mind, do you? Not she, Hawksworth answered. She'll come, you are certain. She'll come, you are certain. As certain, Hawksworth cried gaily, as that Dr. Keith will be ready at the chapel at 12 to the minute, dear lad. And by the way, here's his health. Dr. Keith, and long may he live to bless the single and crown the virtuous. To give to him that hath not, and from her that hath to take away. To be the plague of all sour guardians, lockers up of maidens, and such as would cheat Cupid, and the guardian angel of all Nugents, hussies, and bold fellows. Here's to the pride of Mayfair, the curse of Chancery, and the godfather of many a pretty couple, Dr. Keith. Here's to him, Tom cried. And then more quietly, as he set down his glass, "There's one thing I'd like to be perfectly happy, Hawksworth, only one. I wish it were possible, but I suppose it isn't. What is it, lad? If Josephine, my sister, could be there. There'll be sisters, you see? And of course, Josephine's a girl, but there are only the two of us, for Madame Northey doesn't count. But I suppose it is not possible she should be told." "Quite impossible," Hawksworth answered with decision, and he stooped to hide a smile. The humor of the situation suited him. "Quite impossible. 10-1 she'd peach. No, we must not initiate her too soon, my boy. Though it is likely enough she'll have her own business with Dr. Keith one of these days." The boy stared at him. "My sister?" Yet slowly, his face growing red. "With Dr. Keith? What business could she have with him?" "With Dr. Keith?" Hawksworth asked. "Why not the same as yours, dear boy?" "The same as mine? Yes, to be sure. Why not? Why not?" "Why not? Because she's a Maitland. Our women don't marry that way. I'd have you to know why I'd rather see her buried." "But you're going to marry that way yourself," Hawksworth reasoned. The boy's innocence surprised him a little and amused him more. But I'm a man," Tom answered. "I'm different. And Oriana," he continued, "is different, of course, because if we are not married in this way, my brother Northey would interfere, and we could not be married at all. Oriana is an angel, and because she loves me, is willing to be married in this way. That's all, you see?" "I see. But you would not like your sister to be married on the quiet?" Tom glared at him. "No. And for the why, it is my business." "To be sure it is. Of course it is. And yet, Sir Tom, I would not mind wagering you 100 it is the way she will be married when her time comes. When her time comes." "My sister, yes." "Done with you," the lad cried. "Nay, I don't mind going farther. I'll wager you the same sum that she does it within the year. This year, a year from today." Tom jumped up in heat. "What the devil do you mean?" "But what matter? I'll take you." Hawksworth, as he pulled out his betting book, turned his head aside to hide a smile. "I knowed it," he said. P.H. bets Sir Thomas Maitland 100 that Miss Josephine Maitland is married at Dr. Keith's chapel, and another 100 that the marriage is within the year. "Right," Tom said, gloring at him. His boyish estimate of the importance of his family and of the sacredness of his womankind sucked the flavor from the bet. Ordinarily, the young scapegrace loved a wager. Hawksworth put up his book again. "Good," he said. "You'll see that will be 200 in my pocket someday." "Not it," Tom answered rudely. "My sister is not that sort, and perhaps the sooner you know it, the better," he added aggressively. "Why, lad? What do you mean?" "Just what I said," Tom answered. "'Twas English. When my sister is to be married, we shall make a marriage for her. She's not, but the less said the better." "She's not, but the less said the better," he continued. Hawksworth knew what it would be prudent to quit the subject, but his love of teasing or his sense of the humor of the situation would not let him be silent. "She's not for such as me, you mean?" he said with a mocking laugh. "You can put it that way if you choose. And yet I think if I were to try—" "What?" "I say if I were to try." Sir Tom scowled across the table. "Look here," he said, striking it heavily with his hand. "I don't like this sort of talk. I don't suppose you wish to be offensive, and we'll end it if you please." Hawksworth shrugged his shoulders. "Oh, by all means, if you feel that way, only it looks a little as if you feared for your charming sister. After all, women are women. Even Miss Josephine Maitland is a woman and no exception to the rule, I presume." "Oh, hang you!" the boy cried, in a fury, and again struck his hand on the table. "Will you leave my sister's name alone? Can you understand what a gentleman feels about it?" "Oh, shit." He cannot! The words came from behind Sir Tom, who forthwith sprang a yard from the saddle and stood gaping, while Hawksworth, his glass going to shivers on the floor, clutched the table as he rose. Both stood staring, both stood amazed, and scarce believed their eyes when Josephine stepped from the shelter of the saddle, stood before them. He cannot. Alter, da will man mal einen smoothen Abgang machen.